Okay, so we are going to start training one, which is your master class. And okay, so first I want to go over the mindset of this. This training plus training two is what makes or breaks your funnel. So this is a process of creating one content event that is going to go out and speak to the masses so that you do not have to rely on the sales calls, right, every time, or trying to explain your offer 10,000 different ways of content. It's all condensed into this one experience. So do not rush this process. This is why you have the one-on-one feedback so that you make sure that it's good and that it's gold. And the point of this first training is to basically just explain who you are, why you're different, how you can help, and if they're interested, how they can learn more about your offer. So this is not like the traditional ClickFunnels, Funnel-y trainings that you have seen before. It's similar to that, but it's going to be just a slightly different. And this is going to move people forward and create that internal urgency. So you're not going to have to use false urgency things, which are not true. You can use deadline funnels and stuff like that, but you don't have to rely on that because now someone's like intrinsically making this purchase decision. So they're going to be able to self-identify in this funnel. And then they're either qualify or disqualify themselves so that when they move to the second training, it should be only the best, hot and ready like buyers. Okay. And the second training is where you're going to talk about how your signature framework is the gap between their point A to point B. And this is where you're going to address all your enrollment funding options and like what are you actually doing for them? The main principle of how these presentations are sold is based on buyer psychology, okay? This sentence is not of selling the result and desire. The principle of how these presentations are done, sorry, is based on, look, Grammarly can only get me but so far. The buyer psychology of selling the result and desire. So you're going to learn how do you actually do that. And so you want to keep them focused on the end goal. You want to learn how to paint the vision and overcome any internal thoughts that don't allow them to move forward mentally. So you're going to answer the question, what's in it for me the whole time? And so this is probably going to be so new for you because you're so used to sharing all the value of what it is you're going to do for them. And that's not actually what gets people to buy. It's learning how to paint the vision. So psychologically, they see in their mind, oh my gosh, okay, this is what I'm looking for, but also remove the barriers in their mind that don't allow them to purchase. So when we think about the funnel messaging, you've probably seen this already before. It's the thing they think that solves the problem, getting that out of the way, addressing the symptoms, getting that out of the way. Now they're open to see your solution. They're open to see your unique lens and signature process to get them to the result and the desire. So point A to point B, right? Your offer being the thing that gets them there and through their roadblocks. And then with your offer, a very clear position, a very clear person at this point in their life. Okay. So you're going to be speaking their language so clearly that it creates that internal urgency and empowers buyers who move. So by the time they get to the end of your funnel, they have been primed and you will have built branded offer awareness. And then most importantly, hopefully they buy. Right. But if they don't buy, the beautiful thing is that you start to seed offer awareness. Okay. So another thing you're going to do is create a Canva presentation, or you can do Google presentation, whatever you decide. But also prepare that so that I can kind of see your presentation against like the visuals. And I'm not going to give you a template for that because I do not want your training to look like mine or anyone else's. This is where you let your creative brand genius fly. And again, I just want everyone's funnel to be uniquely different. Okay. So don't be too text heavy in your presentation and then ask yourself, what exactly is needed to get the point across on this slide, okay? Anytime you get to a roadblock, just go around it, okay? And we will touch on certain things together, okay? So when you're doing this presentation, you want to get out of your head into your heart. Remember why you started. Don't think of all the things you can say just to get someone to buy. We will fix the buyer psychology at the end. Make this yours. What would you say to your dream person and how do you want to make it? Imagine you are talking to them and they're right in front of you. One of my sisters in Christ says, oh, just imagine you're at a coffee shop talking to your favorite client. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so fun. And key thing is that you also may have a lot of this content already from your organic content, your launches or your sales calls. So you're going to be like, I have the answer for this. So put on some instrumental worship music, ask the Holy Spirit what he wants to say. This first training shouldn't be more than 20 minutes, maybe 25, 30 max. Okay. So again, it's not about saying the right thing the first time. Let it flow, dump it out, and then we can organize it into the formula after. Okay. And then because you want to make the formula fit your words from your heart, not the other way around. Okay. Because now you want to start to amp up your message. And this process may seem hard at first if you haven't done this and condensing your message into one singular event because you're learning a new skill. So you're going deeper than probably just the top layer messaging that you're used to. And you're tapping into buyer and sales psychology. So it may feel even harder, especially if you've been launching over and over to the same audience and you've been using the same general message, but different. So give yourself grace because you want to get really potent, super crystal clear with your offer messaging. Okay. And this is going to be key for even you organic girlies. Your offer messaging should inform your content. This funnel right here, this training is just your content and it's all informed by your offer messaging. Okay. So don't rush it. Don't try to get it right the first time to just be done with it. If you nail it the first time, great, but just give yourself grace and trust the process. Okay, so masterclass prep, these are just all the things that you need to really get this process done. So name of your offer, you can get this from your offer messaging, main transformation, who's the buyer, and their position. Very, very key. And then that's it. So moving into your title slide, you can read this, it's pretty self-explanatory, but make your title slide action-based and something they want to learn. Okay, and so we've probably already talked about this. What's the angle of your lead magnet? And then you're going to insert your tagline, your unique selling proposition. Okay, so if I am like my passive signature sales system, how to close client, how to passively close clients into your signature group coaching program on autopilot without sales calls, live launches, or daily content, right? So that's kind of like a good title. Now, micro agreements. Micro agreements, you probably heard this from our dear brother Myron, but micro agreements, and this is also just what you do inside of your sales process. Basically, it's asking questions and in a way, or stating your information in a way that gets people to agree in your presentation where they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's me. Like totally, yeah, me. Because this is how you keep people engaged. But this is important for making the sales, because if the first time you ask them a question like, hey, are you ready to buy? And you have not asked them questions, you have not got them to agree that this is the reason why, right? You're not convincing them, you're not persuading them, but it's just like, hey, you know what? You've probably been live launching and your cash is running out. And someone's like, oh yeah, that's me. That's kind of what this process looks like. And then it's going to establish your leadership and authority. So you don't need to fill this out now, but it's like, look for touch points throughout your presentation where you can ask questions, get them to agree, or say things in a way where they're like, oh my gosh, that is me. All right. So with your introduction, you're literally just repeating the slide from before, except for now you're going to add your avatar to it. So if I'm like, okay, this is my passive signature sales system. And so, this is the system that helps me to do X, Y, Z. And if you are a Kingdom coach, then insert tagline, insert USP, very straightforward. All right. And so you're reminding them why they're here, except for now you're starting to self-identify and call them out. So they're like, okay, cool. So you're like, all right, cool. Now let's get in, into this presentation. So at this point, when we look at the funnel formula, right? It's like, these are the things they think are the reason why they cannot get to their solution. So we want to start to address that now. So you're going to address their current pain point. What are they going through and what do they want? So we're going to be speaking to the person, not necessarily like their ideal characteristics, as in like, oh, you're a single mom, you're this, or that. We're going to be speaking to the empowered person. This is kind of where we start to call in the movers. So we want to speak to what it is that they're doing, what have they been trying to do, and then they're ready to get the results that your program provides. So for example, you can see here, you started your Kingdom business because you wanted to step into the calling that God has for you, and you wanted to build wealth and financial freedom for your family, right? You also wanted to make an impact with others, and you've built this whole business up organically. So you're showing someone that's like, oh, I'm already doing it, not like I'm stuck in this problem. So your group coaching program changes lives. Like they're already actively doing this, right? So you want to use that language here, and you've been crushing it and you've been selling out your launches. However, you recognize that you're ready for sustainable cash months on autopilot, because sometimes you're just at the place in your life where you're just like, I don't feel like doing launches, and launches got me here, but they're not going to get me to my next, right? Like I don't want to have to rely on them and do them because I have to make money. I want to do them because I want to, and I just know that there's a better way, right? So then the next slide is now really talking about the things that they're actively doing. So you're calling out this person where they're at, kind of just like their current position, right? And again, now you can hopefully see how these documents that you created before bloop, 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 plug into this. Like each document plugs into the next. So now you're going to be talking to what they're actively doing to try to get to this outcome, the specific actions, right? The activities that they're doing. So you can see, you can read through this, and this is going to call out the proactive buyer. Again, not the person that's like, oh, I'm stuck. Oh, I can't do anything. Okay. So it's like, all right, so you're ready for this autopilot months and you've been like killing it. You have 5-figure launches and you only have a small audience. You are closing in the DM with simple conversations. You have a loyal community, right? That you've built through relationship and connection. And you have quality, you're spending a lot of time creating this quality experience for your clients from selling to serving. So you're stating the things that they're doing, right? But then when you get to the next point, next slide, you're like, but what is it producing for you at this point? So because what's happening now that they're doing all of these things, right? So if you're like, we'll stick to the funnel example. If your problem came in that you just do not know how to sell on autopilot, you're relying on live launching is starting to feel heavy. Your content isn't necessarily creating daily sales for you. So the cash flow is running out, or you just don't have the right leads. And so every time you get on sales calls, it's a mess. So you're trying all of these strategies, right? So you're doing all of these things. You've built this amazing stuff. But at this place, though, you still get to the place where you yourself are the sales machine. You yourself have to be the one that if you do not show up, you don't make money. So you're doing all these things and they're great, but here's the problem, right? And now XYZ, ABC, 1, 2, 3. So show the results of what they're getting because of the things that they're trying, right? And because they're doing this, now they're just like, okay, you totally get it. Duh. And I'm sure you probably guys are seeing this from like you and I with like, so you've had a sales call and you're like, oh, okay. So you can see how this principle works for like so many things. So now you're going to introduce yourself. And this is where you start to build your authority yet connection. So you want to share information about yourself, but do not go into a tangent where you are talking about yourself. It is not about you. This is the art of learning how to share your story, but relating it to them. Okay. So you're going to share your transformation story. You're going to share why you understand their struggles. Okay. Introduce who you are, what you do. Use this section to show them that you're just like them and explain the reason behind your business or strategy. So what you want to think of is where you were before you solved this problem and discovered your new way. Okay. So you can kind of read through this. Who I am. Here's how I did it, right? The connection point. Okay. So you can kind of have like fun facts about yourself. Like I would, I don't know, you can put your age if you want to, but I wouldn't put my age, but I'd be like, I am a Yorkie mom. I have created this achievement, which is the achievement that they want. However, I am not like someone that's super, super special. All I did was I valued my time freedom. I was someone that actually built a business that was where I was just like you, where if I did not show up, it did not run. And that led me to burnout in the hospital. And then after the hospital, I was sitting on the couch and I was like, I got to find a better way. And then insert funnels. So funnels came to me at a time where I needed it the most, but I recognized the leverage, right? Because I'm someone who loves the 10X lifestyle. So in 2019 is when I took the journey into funnels. My very first funnel that I built in 2020 was after being out of the hospital. I spent 3 months learning how to build it and not being able to work that year because I actually needed time to recover. My very first funnel generated $56,000 for me. And I literally just got to spend that whole time healing. That is the power of funnels. Right? And so then you can start to go into the summary of your timeline. Keep it short, keep it succinct. But this is where you're going to start to share maybe some of the internal beliefs that you had, right? Like, oh my gosh, is this possible? And what I mean by is this possible? Like, okay, for my overachievers, for my high performance people, we're thinking to ourselves, well, is it real that I could actually wake up and have money while I sleep, or someone pay me from just watching this training on autopilot and not buy? Like, there's no way. I have to work hard in order to get funnels, right? And so you're starting to already address the self-beliefs, and you're going to do that in this slide, you're going to do that in this slide, and take as much time as you need to, well, not, use as many visual slides as you need. Keep it succinct, but use as many visual slides as you need to get the point across. Or you can also do a before, here's where I was before, here's where I am in the middle, here's where I am after. But remember, you're going to be talking about it and threading it back to them, not saying, I did this, I did this, I did this, in this way where it's just like, here's all my achievements, because they're gonna be like, okay, well, I can't relate. It's like, here's my achievements, but like, hey, look, I'm gonna show you I understand where you were because I was just like that. Here are the thoughts that I was experiencing. Here are the things that I was going through. And then boom, here I am now on the other side, which is the thing that this person wants. Okay. So then you want to have some proof of your transformation. So this is kind of where we tiny touch on the results, because I do not want anyone that comes in that's like, I need hand holding, or, oh my gosh, you did this in this amount of time, I need this too. So, and then we don't want them to commoditize you or look at you like a, you know, I don't know how they're gonna look at you, but like, I want them to buy from you because you are the expertise and you're the authority, but because of the human connection in your heart. And they're like, you are the one for me, because coaching, right, is the space where you work with people that you feel like you're a good fit, that you want to actually share and learn from and do life with. So I want you to share your results, because like, duh, you want to make sure you have some proof of what you're talking about. But I want it to be because of connection. So touching on it, moving forward. Okay. And then this is kind of like where now they're like, okay, girl, you've done all this stuff, but like, it's because it's you. And you're like, no, if I can do this, why can't you? Because I was in the same place where I thought, well, you know, because they had this, or they have this, or this is the reason why they were able to succeed. Nope. Right. So this is sharing from your heart. And you can see in this whole section, like I mentioned, you are breaking down the belief that they have of self. So you can go back to your buyer doc and see that. And then how you can say, oh yeah, duh, in this moment of the story, I was actually thinking this. And so you can weave that belief of self that they have into your story, and then micro agreements, da, 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 da. So hopefully that makes sense on how this is working. And then again, we are getting into the big vision, right? So we see how this whole leading up to this point has nothing to do with your offer, nothing to do with what you're teaching, but also not talking about you. You are literally answering the questions in their mind, the now problems and the symptoms. So they're like, yes, this is what starts to make it bingeable. And now they're hooked. And you're also learning how to sell the vision. So at the end, show a picture of like what it's like with you on the other side. So a lot of my rich and rested sort of lifestyle is like, oh, it makes me cry when I think about it. But like, me taking naps with Yafa, for me, that's rich and rested. Me going on my walks at the beach is rich and rested. That is when my soul just feels the best. And I'm like, man, I am not a slave to my computer, but also I love my work. I love my work and I love what I do, but I just needed to get it together and learn how to actually build a business that runs off of leverage, so that my energy, my time as a human goes into the right things. Okay. And so you just kind of share that. And so you can see how this whole section is priming the desire, the result, and it's focusing on the payoff and making the outcome of your framework desirable. Okay. So now we're going to just, you can kind of see this sometimes in some webinars where they're like, okay, we'll make a pitch for your offer. But instead of making a pitch for your offer, because this is an application funnel and we really want to build that rapport and connection. And of course, because you're like, I just don't want every person under the sun in this, because you are selling a live offer that you're going to actually have to live and do life with people. You want the right people. Well, you're going to have them apply for the DM conversation. Okay. So you're not going to tell them about the second training. You're just going to simply say like, hey, look, if you're like, hey, oh my gosh, you're speaking my language, you've heard enough, then you can go ahead and tap the button up below to apply for a one-on-one DM conversation. So after you apply, we're going to reach out because we want to make sure it's a good fit and we can actually help you. Because if we can't help you, then we at least want to point you in the right direction, right? And truthfully, we literally can't help everyone. So in this DM conversation, we're going to identify your blind spots, your things that are holding you back, your gaps, the things that you're missing. And you're going to talk about the problem that you solve that keeps them from the desire. And so after you apply, we can chat more about, your offer or whatever the case is, or whatever you're helping them with and where you're at. So they know that they need to click the button below your presentation right now to apply. And then once they apply is when you'll get the application, you see it, you review it, and then you move on to like the second process of the funnel. Okay. So now you can kind of read through this. This is so key, because a lot of the times this is when you just basically have the trainings and you literally just tell them everything. You tell them too much and you're just like, okay, you've given away the how. This is a training that is designed to sell. Okay, so a sales training has a very different format. Oops, sorry, I was just seeing what the spacing looks like. So make sure you go through this. This is when you're going to get to the meat, right? And this is kind of where your creative expertise is going to come into play, because you're going to show them a little bit how you teach and how you think, but you're going to focus on shifting perspectives and getting them out of their heads. Because if we do not shift the beliefs before they get to your framework, then it's going to be hard for them to buy, even if they are the right person. All right. So anytime you're talking about shifting beliefs or things that they're doing, use we, because you were once that person too. And you don't want it to feel like, oh, I'm pointing fingers at you, or I'm someone that's better, that has a hierarchy of information. No, you're just two people in two different places. And this is where they're going to start to have those, my one sister in Christ calls it penny drop moments, because their perspective is going to shift. So allow how you teach to come into the flow of this. Give them a taste of your expertise. Think about how your person learns, okay? So let's see here. So in this slide, you're going to showcase the things that they're doing, right? And it's breaking down this belief of journey. So you already probably fill that out. What are they doing? What have they been taught to believe in order to get this solution? So think about the top 3 things, not everything, but the biggest false beliefs or prevailing wisdoms, or the things that they think gets them to this solution. Okay? Because we're going to break it down, why this is giving them the same results, the consequences if they keep doing this, right? And why this is not allowing them to move forward. So in order for you to solve your problem, you've been taught maybe you need to just make more cash in your live launches. Maybe you just need to get ads to get more leads into your live launches. Excuse me. Maybe you need to go and do a 5-day challenge because they need 5 days to experience you, right? Whatever that prevailing wisdom is. And then you're going to break down the first belief. So you're going to say why more people in your launch and just having a bigger cash launch isn't going to get you off of this hamster wheel. So it's not going to get you off of this hamster wheel because you actually are trying to scale a group coaching program. You actually do not have a business strategy and a business model. So just getting more people in and just having a large launch will just be a longer time until you get to the point where you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't been making money for now 6 months, right? Because you doubled your live launch money. But at the same time, why am I not, like, there's this desire in me to grow and to scale. Okay. So then the next thing though, is just to affirm them, right? Showing them, hey, this is how it works. So you're saying inside the funnels, well, I'm using my example. So adding an automated passive sales funnel to your system is not only going to amplify your launches, but in between launches is where you're going to have that sustainable cash month, the sustainable sales that are coming in from your sales machine. And then you can leverage that information and use it for your launches. They work together, they play together, right? And I'm going to show you how. Okay. You don't want to rely on your live launches, because then what happens is everyone starts to look like a number. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I got to hit my numbers. And then numbers are not in the right place. And so your logic is now skewing your creativity, and it feels heavy and it's a burden. Okay. So then you're going to break down the second belief. You're going to repeat the process for the second belief, elaborate further, let them know what's up. And then at the end, you're going to do, you can do it for the third, how many ever quick slides that you need to get this point across. And then at this point, you have to call them up. And so calling them up just basically is like, what is that statement that you give them? So like for me, it's like, what got you here is not going to be the thing that gets you to your next. As a thought leader, you need to apply leverage and you need to buy your time back. Okay. Now at this point, they should have a better understanding of what the problem was. Oh, I thought this. Oh, and another thing that I could break down at this point is that, oh, you've probably heard that evergreen sales don't work because you're selling a live group coaching program. Oh, let me tell you why that's actually not correct. Evergreen doesn't mean that you have to only sell something that's self-study. What you actually are trying to understand is that there is a way to bring in passive sales. But hey, you know what? Because it's a group coaching program and you still actually want to have the best people in, there's going to be a tiny element of a human touch. But what's going to happen is that by the time you talk to people, it's just going to be a long, beautiful line of perfect, ready to buy followers that don't have tons of objections, that don't have tons of like, questions about like, why, how are you like someone else? It's just like, hey, is this the right fit? Is it a good fit for me right now? Boom, that's it, done. Sign them, sign them, sign them, sign them. Okay. And this is not something where you're going to have to build this huge, huge, huge sales team to do this. You can literally have train a virtual assistant to help you with this inside. Well, I'm going to say a virtual assistant, but someone to help you with this inside of the DMs. And when you get to the DM part, it's not going to be hard. You can literally do it with your feet up. I remember laying in I was in my parents' bed one day when I came over, and I basically was like just chatting with someone, and boop, signed $1,500. Oh, I remember I was like on a walk with Yafa, and I was just like voice noting her back. Oop, another $1,500 when my offer was $1,500 at the time. So it's super, super straightforward and simple. And because this is a group coaching program, you're going to be capped at how many people you could actually take on. And that's why you're in this program, because you're going to then start to, look at your continuity model and other places you can scale. Okay. So I shall be right back. Yafa has to go potty. Okay. So now at this point, you've addressed the problem, broken down the beliefs, shifted perspective. Okay. And they probably said like, oh my gosh, they've agreed many times. So at this point, it's like, well, what do I do? So now you can see how it's moving them through the buyer messaging or psychology journey. So you get to share with them how your framework takes them from point A to point B, because they trusted you up to this point. So your framework becomes the next logical step. And this is, again, before we really get into your offer. So in this section, you want to talk about the purpose of each part of your framework. So you can see how we did that in the offer messaging doc. What does it do for them, right? Don't tell them how to do it. Okay. Teach them how to think by sharing your unique perspective. Ooh, spelling errors. Unique perspective and expertise. So you're just going to list all of your 1, 2, 3, 4 here on this slide. And you're briefly just going to touch and say, hey, this is the name of my signature framework. This is what it does. Speak to the problem to get to the desire. Show it, state it, and say, okay, let's get into it. Let's break it down. So framework number 1. Okay. So if I'm thinking about my framework, I'm thinking about offer. It's probably offer positioning. It's funnel strategy. And then it's traffic or something like that, right? So I'm going to say number 1, what it is and why it's important. Okay, so having this part is like super, super important, because this is where most people get their funnels wrong. This is why their funnel doesn't work. And what this replaces is tons and tons of time creating content. Okay. And what does this do? This is going to make sure that you pick and get your dream clients. Okay. And so any objections or beliefs that they have, oh, when you might be thinking, oh, I already know my offer messaging. Okay. Well, this is a lot different than just traditional, like top of like funnel messaging. This is like the type of messaging that actually speaks to the empowered buyer and buyer psychology. Because yeah, you probably know your messaging, but you may have encountered this other problem where you get a lot of people in your program and they're not a good fit. Okay. And so you break down framework 1, you break down framework 2, and how many other pieces of framework that you have. And then when you get to the last part of the framework, and say, and then all of this together, this machine, this system is what gets you X result. Okay. And then you can say that after this. Okay. And then if you have any testimonials, you would share them here. And again, testimonials should support the context of what you're talking about. So not just random testimonials for the sake of testimonials. So this is probably a testimonial of like someone using your framework and being like, oh, okay, cool. If you don't have it, use your results. Not a big deal. So the next section, this is optional, but especially in your competitive industry, or you can just add it if you want to show how you're different, because maybe that you're not in a competitive industry, but like when everyone thinks about your solution, like let's say, for example, you're in mindset, everyone thinks it's like, oh, I'm just going to repeat and say affirmations and And you're like, okay, it's actually more than that. And these are the 2 reasons why when you try to get to the solution, get to your solution using this type of framework, it does not work for you. So here's what you really need. So again, I may say this, so like maybe you've tried this before and it hasn't worked. Okay, well, the reason why, number 1, is because you do not know your offer messaging. You do not know how to position your offer. You think that you can just use a copy and paste plug-in template and it's going to make sales. That's not how it works. So if you feel like you're getting a bunch of this, a bunch of that, the problems that they're getting, then this is why, because a copy and paste template is not going to work for you. Okay, and then you can have a testimonial if you have it, and then you're going to do the same thing for step 2. Okay. And then now you're done with your framework and your process. Okay. And how your process is different. Okay. So at this point, they should be primed for your offer and they're like, okay, just show me how. And so for this next section, you want to refer to the part in your offer doc where you talk about why you got started. Okay. So now that you've told them all of this stuff, you want to drop back into connection before, again, you ask for the sale. So you're going to share from your heart. You're going to empower them in this slide. You're going to call them up. You're going to be like, I remember what it feels like when you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm ready for my next. Okay. I know that God is stirring. I know that God is calling me, but it's just like, I can't get out of this loop where every day I'm like not making sales. And it's like, I know it's not about the money, but it's just like, man, I'm like, what am I missing when it comes to actually building a business? Right. But then the reality is, okay, cash flow is quickly coming out. So something is off here, but I know that I have a really good offer. I know when people come to my offer, it changes my life, but why am I in this like constant hamster wheel of like trying to scale to get to my next? Okay. And how do I scale to get to my next without doing more? So at this point, you can see how we've walked through this formula. So now they're going to be primed and receptive to your offer. Okay. And then usually here, you can just kind of like share a little picture of yourself and like a little, again, what needs to get across in this slide to get the information across. Okay. So at the end of this, you can run this checklist through. This is kind of a checklist I do for all of my content, just kind of happens in my head now, but asking yourself, is it clear? Is it focused? Am I speaking to my one person? Am I kind of going through this? And that way you'll know it's like, ooh, because sometimes when you're doing this, you get it out and it's like so much. And now you're just like, okay, I got to get succinct with this. And then bloop, you can just make sure you run through this checklist. So at this point, they have now been primed for your offer and it's time to transition to your pitch. So you're just inviting them to apply. So you're going to reset your tagline, what your offer does, and saying like, okay, you got to this point and like you are so ready for this transformation. So I'm inviting you to apply into whatever the name of your program is and the thing that it helps them do, right? And so then you're going to say, well, how do you like get more information on how I can help you in this framework? So it's going to be that same apply for a DM combo. It's just going to look a little bit different. Before, you're just going to say apply to the combo if you want like a one-on-one like session or whatever the case is. But like this time, you're going to show them I stated twice. You're going to show them like the steps. So you're going to say, hey, this is the steps like 1, 2, 3 on how it get started. 1, click the application link below, apply. Step 2, we're going to reach out. And then 3, we're going to, have this conversation on if our program is a good fit for you. Okay. And then you're going to briefly spin through your framework. What your avatar is going to do to get the results. Keep it simple, keep it concise. What it is and why. Okay. Here's what we're going to share inside this offer name. Okay. State your framework again, but you can now put it in the order that you teach it. So like if your framework was just kind of showing them from like end to like, or like certain, like your actual execution process. Like, so for example, like when you go through this process, we're going to go through offer messaging, buyer messaging, but when you actually go to execute it, it's going to be curiosities, scripts, whether it's going to be organic or paid traffic, they're going to come into your, like you can state it in that way. Like you probably stated it in that way in the beginning, but now I'm going to actually show you through the way in which I take you through it. So use a lot of features to benefits language. Okay, get this so you can. And so you're just going to like list on one slide. You don't have to have too many slides. Here's the 4 things that I'm going to help you do in my framework, what it is and why I teach it. And then you're going to list on the next step, okay, well, because this is a group coaching program, how I help you actually get through these different parts of the framework. You're going to have audits, you're going to have Zoom calls, And then you're going to say here, this is perfect for you. You are perfect to apply. And then you're going to call out the avatar, right? And you're going to say all the things that are needed in order for them to apply, as well as stating the pain point and addressing the desire. So whatever that looks like for you, like you have a signature group coaching program that you've been selling on live launches, but you're ready to change, right? Because I'm like, that addresses the pain point, that addresses the desire, and it speaks to the person that I have. Because if you don't have a group coaching program, then this offer isn't for you, okay? So you can list as much as needed to get the point across on your slide. You can say more in the back end, but like don't put too much on the slide. Now, you don't have to have this slide. This slide is optional, but instead of saying like, this isn't for you, I like to say, what you need, because then it empowers them to get right and come back. So again, like for me, if you do not have an offer, this is not the program for you, because I don't go through offer creation in this, right? So there's that. Now, bonuses, optional. If they do not crush objections that people have, then do not add this to the slide. Or if they aren't pressing thing that someone wants, and save this till training 2. So what I mean by that is that people will probably be like, well, do I actually get your funnel scripts and your like prompts and stuff like that? I'll address that here and state that as like a bonus or something, if that's a bonus thing, or an ads training as a bonus thing, to be like, yeah, I'm going to already answer that because it's something juicy you want to know. And then it's going to move them along. Okay. And then at the end, it's just it's the same slide as before, just calling them in to apply, just saying what the process is. Okay. So going through this, just go through and review, make sure you've removed any of the false beliefs about the journey, anything that you think that you can think of, and highlight that in your conversation. You don't have to have this in every single like slide. It's just making sure you're finding points inside of your script to say that. Okay. And then these are some key tips that you can go over. Focus on how it solves their problems, right? Focusing on painting the vision of the future. Be super straightforward. You don't need to over explain. You don't need to convince. Anytime you're talking about the technical things that they get, use features to benefits, right? And then super technical things, it's like, okay, it's 6 weeks, it's, 6 months, it's this and that, like that's like super technical. Always anchor your benefits with a story or testimonial if it's applicable. And then remember, the more things, just you stuffing it in, it's like value stack, it doesn't mean that it's valuable. What's valuable is that you have answered the buyer psychology questions in their mind, and that's what creates a certainty and trust. And then making sure you're finding different points for micro agreements. Okay. So don't move into training 2 until this training has been cleared, because a lot of what you do in this training, I would say about like 60% of it, you're going to repeat in training 2, just differently. Okay. So you want to make sure that this is solid before you go into training 2. All right. So you already know, make a copy of this doc with edit capabilities, tag me and drop it into your Trello. Drop this link into your Trello. And then if you have any questions, let me know. And then if there's any place in here you get stuck, just skip it. Okay. That is it. I will see you in training 2.